again.
Yeah,
Yes.
you're back in Russia.
Well, for about a month this time.
Wow. Back
So,
in the U.S., back in the USSR.
USSR.
But
You
it's
don't know
not the
how much.
USSR anymore.
That's right.
Mhm.
Yep.
So that's
Mr.
cool.
Gorbachev tore down that wall.
The mother country, but it's not your mother country, right?
It is not.
What is your
No,
mother country? Do you have one?
England. Well, Wales,
Wales,
where
that's
there's
interesting.
where there's no UFO sightings because it's foggy all the time. Not foggy, but overcast.
That's where Catherine Zeta-Jones is from.
I know where I used to see her all the time.
Oh, yeah.
The coffee shops.
Well, that'd
Yes,
be delightful.
you know,
She's a very lovely
believe everything
woman.
I say. Yes.
Well, that's fun. So is there any particular reason you went out there?
Yes, it's actually medical reasons for my girlfriend's, mother. And, I mean, father, I'm sorry.
Oh, okay.
But, everything will be fine. And
Good.
that's why I'm here for a prolonged time. It's actually, just a couple of surgeries that need to be done and, and that's it. We'll be here for a while. And, I got to say, I'm not a fan of the food.
Uh-huh.
And I'm really glad that they can't understand my English because they're in the next room.
Oh, yeah.
But, there's so many ways you can cook borscht. I mean, that's just
What's
it.
borscht?
It's like a bunch of vegetables with some type of, I don't even know what type of broth it is.
Wow.
And then sometimes there's meats in it. This has been vegetable borscht, and it's,
And that's all they
some
make,
people
huh?
love it. I've had it for every meal I've been here, except for breakfast, which is other very strange things.
Yeah, what do they do for breakfast?
Well, it's an oatmeal that's like a powder, so it's like a liquid, and it's just, it tastes as bad as it sounds, if you ask me. And then these weird egg things on top of bread, almost like a thick layer of French toast that you do nothing with. And, it's good because, I can take off a few pounds. I'm getting a lot of exercise, and on the Black Sea, it's pretty.
Yeah, that'll be helpful. I mean, I guess losing weight. Do they have, like, smoothies? Can you eat smoothies?
They have nothing here. No restaurants, no.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of them somewhere in the town. There's only 250,000 people in this town.
Holy cow. Are you having any problems with old ladies this time?
Well, I
One
spotted
of them
her.
threatened to murder you.
Yes, I
Last
did
time.
spot that same exact woman
Oh,
out of
wow.
250,000 people
Oh,
down
my
in the Black
God.
Sea with her little dog again, and I just steered clear.
Yeah,
and
good
I hope
idea.
she doesn't recognize me. Yeah,
Wow. Harrowing. Very adventurous, huh?
it is. Going to Sochi tomorrow for a number of days, so that'll be exciting. Going to be staying in a big place there, and it's really a beautiful town right on the Black Sea as well.
Cool.
It's a full day drive away, but you go up into the mountains. That's where the Winter Olympics were. But this is right on the Black Sea itself. Nice and toasty, warm, 75 degrees or so.
Wow. Great.
Around here. So,
Is it pretty out there?
oh, the Black Sea is absolutely beautiful. You know, I
Wow.
mean, it's it's big. I mean, it's huge, but the water's sort of turquoise, so it's kind of nice.
Wow, that is so cool. I'd love to see it, but I'll pack my own lunch, I guess, huh?
Yeah, I would. Bring your own borscht. Yeah.
Cool. Well, that sounds like fun. So we'll be talking to you and checking up on your Russian adventures over the next few weeks, huh?
Yeah, for a little while.
And the internet sounds great. I mean, you sound better than some of my guests here in the States.
I know, it's amazing. I've been talking to people
incredible.
on my phone all day, and it's like the phone works perfect, too.
You know, we may be making fun of Russia right now, and we're going to make fun of Russia a little bit more in a little bit here, I know, related to some UFO stories. But from what I understand, I mean, really the U.S. surprisingly has terrible internet compared to many other countries.
Yeah, I've heard like the worst is Australia, but I'm not sure. I mean, that's,
Well, I guess... Yeah, they're pretty. I guess what happened is since we were first to the game, we rolled out these cables all over the place. But since others kind of came in later, they were able to roll out the fiber all over the place. So that's why they
have
have
fiber optics.
Yeah,
that's the magic. Yeah.
Pretty cool.
Absolutely.
Well, awesome. Enjoy yourself out there, buddy.
Thanks. Who do you have coming on today for your guest?
That's a funny you should say. I was just about to mention. My guest is Richard Hoffman. He is a state director for MUFON out in Alabama and I think Mississippi. Yeah, nearby, 2 places. And, he'll tell us in the interview because my memory for some reason is failing me. Just a super busy morning, Mondays, of course. And he's also got another title. He manages I think, strategy or something like that for MUFON. He's got a couple titles there, so he does a lot of stuff. But he's been in this forever, which we'll talk about. Some amazing stuff he did as a child in relation to UFOs. And so just a really impressive, cool guy. He's also part of the SDU team. So do you remember that? They were the guys who researched that Homeland Security video.
Oh, yes.
Mm-hmm. So he's a part of that team, and he'll be talking about that case as well.
Oh, that's good.
Mm-hmm.
I still want to follow that case because I don't think it's over yet.
Right. It's not so far, so we'll talk about updates. Another interesting fact is he's a bow tie wearer.
Oh, that's a rare breed.
Yeah, which I find I have a even more appreciation for recently due to Doctor Who. I'm a Doctor Who fan, and if you know the Matt Smith character, used to always wear bow ties and say bow ties are cool. That was kind of his little catchphrase. Bow ties.
Well, I got to tell you, I don't know if you have ever tried to tie one of those suckers, but it is not an easy task.
Really?
Oh, it took me hours to try to figure it out. It's really tough. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not the most coordinated person in the first place, so yeah.
Don't try.
I don't think I will. I kind of like the long tie, or I like the no tie personally because
yeah,
that's a cool look, and it's kind of acceptable these days.
Right. Yep.
So let's go ahead and get into some UFO news. Have you been able to see any UFO news out there in Russia?
Yeah. Well, I want to talk about this is about an Army chief of staff. And he warns of, his wording, I got to say it was all in his wording, hybrid armies and little green men. Now, this was a speech last week at Norwich University, and General Mark Miley is his name, Chief of Staff for the U.S. Army, told the audience, many of whom were ROTC cadets, that the future the cadets will be dealing with, among other things, is hybrid armies and little green men. Now, some UFOers assumed this to be a admission that armies of aliens and alien-human hybrids are threatening the Earth, and you can watch where they're going to go with that. I bet it's going to be pretty big the way things can go. But anyway, this is not what he was actually talking about at all. He was warning them about the complex makeup of the enemies that they will face, and that includes terrorists and armies without states, cyber warfare, unidentified armies working covertly, and there's also like in I think it was Russia that these are armies including forces that are just seen like in the Ukraine that are believed to be Russian special forces, and like in Ukraine and Crimea. And they wear unmarked uniforms and drive unmarked vehicles. That's kind of scary. And so Russia has denied that they've deployed these forces, but it's been a strange case anyway. So we'll see again where people go with what he said. Unfortunately, he wasn't meaning, not unfortunately, I'm going to say, but he wasn't meaning what I believe a lot of people will take it, at face value, that it was talking about aliens.
Yeah. And it's kind of one of those crazy things. It's kind of turned into, in some, corners, especially these online discussion groups and stuff, it's kind of turned into one of the Mexican Roswell slide kind of thing where people heard him say this, and, and he's very straightforward, hybrid armies and little green men. And UFO people are like, oh my gosh, and they're writing, and some well-known people wrote, this is finally disclosure. It proves the Army knows that they're fighting with aliens and all of this stuff. And I gotta say, it wasn't very difficult. I mean, when I saw it, I was going to write about it. I thought, this is really interesting. He should use these terms. But I thought he's either joking or these terms are military terms. But it wasn't very difficult to find out that, surprisingly to me, these were military terms. And people were saying, look, he's not joking because there's a video of him out there, and he's very straightforward about these comments and everything. And so it wasn't very hard to find these were military terms, but when people started saying that, of course, the people who have already committed to this idea that this Army general is talking about aliens did not give up. They're still out there to this day saying, no, he meant aliens. He didn't mean aliens. And I mean, these terms are on Wikipedia, for goodness sakes. But this is really funny development. So Friday, I wrote my story to clear the water and to write about, what these terms really meant and everything, to give people a reference just before it got too big. Hey, before you get too excited, he wasn't talking about aliens. Here's what he was really talking about. Well, on Friday, the Army Times wrote a follow-up story and about how UFO enthusiasts are going crazy with that lecture. And they quoted our story, our Open Mind story. They said, however, yeah, really cool. They wrote, however, the UFO website, UFO news website, Open Minds, tried to debunk the whole thing to let people know what was really going on. And they used a quote from my story, and then they went on to describe, what those terms really meant, like you just had outlined. So that was kind of cool. The Army Times giving us some credit, but setting the record straight. They moved pretty quickly too to write their follow-up UFO story.
Well, I got to tell you, if you watch what unfolds about this, it'll be. I can just almost guarantee you that you're going to see some, spots in some of the UK tabloids and things like that. Next thing you know, it'll be everywhere.
Yeah.
I hate to sound like such a pessimist, but I just have seen it so many times. That,
you're right.
They'll just take off with it.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm sorry to any listeners out there who are really excited that think that he was talking about aliens, but I mean, you could read my story and go to my links and read the Army Times story to see very clearly that, these are terms, and, these are terms that are in their lexicon. These are terms that this guy probably goes to briefings every day, and they talk about hybrid armies, and they talk about little green men, and so these are things they talk about regularly. So for him, these terms are every day. And he probably didn't think that, the general public doesn't know what he's talking about when he says these things, and that they would kind of be taken aback a bit. But, so that's the story. And you know what? This week's kind of been like that. Some other people, there wasn't a whole lot of news. But the news that was out there was mostly from UK tabloids, covering known hoaxes. So I'm sorry, people, but you know this as well, Martin. Secure Team 10 had one or two stories out there. Those are fake videos. Those are hoaxes. Those are fake. Those aren't real. No matter if the UK Daily Express or the Daily Star pick them up, or the Sun, all of which are tabloids, which, of course, when you go to their stories, they're full of bikini girls doing all kinds of weird stuff. Or women without bikinis or anything. That's the other favorite thing to cover. But these are tabloids who really don't care about accuracy as much as sensationalism. But the Secure Team 10, and they're only thinly veiled hoaxes. I don't even think Secure Team 10 meant to hoax everybody, but just have fun. And people run wild with that stuff.
Wow. Just for the record, I never like to cover women without bathing suits, if you catch my drift.
Yeah, there's kind of a pun there. You never like to cover women.
Just a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Sorry. Cute. Yeah, sorry.
I'm going to make you hang here, bye.
Are you trying to make like a awkward moment here?
Yeah. I'm making you hang because if I would have moved on, it would have gotten you off the hook. But by waiting, and now by talking about it, it's kind of...
About what?
Oh, you're trying to pretend it never happened now? Now that you're out in Russia, you're going to... This is your version of Little Green Men deny it ever happened, even though we have a recording? So you're learning from Putin. Yeah. So, did you want to vent any frustration about Secure Team 10 or anything, any comments? Do you agree that they're not real?
Well, yeah, it's just it just kind of goes along with what I was saying just a few minutes ago, unfortunately. And there are so many cases. I was talking to Kevin Randall last night, and there are so many cases where, like, myth seems to become reality in these stories. And, you can only do what you can do, and that's, write the gist of what really is going on. And just hopefully some of that will get out there like it did. The Army paper saw that and covered it, which is good. But all we can do, personally, all anybody can do is keep their side of the street clean and try to make factual stories and be careful of the myths. Anyone can fall into them. Right.
So two things, though, that I want to mention that aren't myth are, we talked about this last week. There's a UFO detector software out there. We just we featured it on our UFO, Open Minds UFO report that we posted Friday. That's up on the internet and on our page, our video thing. But also, last week's guest was Robert Hastings. That's the real deal. I mean, that is good, hard information, military witnesses. Again, I just can't express enough that how important and how great that he's done this, and that I do implore people to go download and watch his documentary. Have you been able to do that yet?
No, I had such a busy week before I came to Russia.
Oh, I can imagine.
I wasn't able to do anything, but I will have some downtime here. I can do that.
Yeah, and there's Russian stories too, Russian nuke stories about the same thing happening here. Accounts of military people in Russia saying the same thing happened over there with things like UFOs coming over and turning off nukes and stuff. But we did that last week. But anyway, yeah, great stuff. Otherwise, I did want to mention something on another serious note, as serious as I can be, I guess. I didn't get much. I figured I want to bring awareness around this medical condition I have. And I had to spend all day last Tuesday at the doctor's part of this trial on this drug that I have for something called ankylosing spondylitis. So, in my videos... What's that?
That doesn't sound good.
Well,
Alejandro.
I don't know. In a way, it's not as bad as it sounds, but it kind of is. So, in my videos, or if you've seen me, a lot of people will mention, oh man, your neck looks like it hurts, or you look kind of hunched down a bit. I am, because I have this thing called ankylosing spondylitis, which I wish I would have known about earlier, and that's why I want to tell people about it, because I think there needs to be a lot more awareness. If I would have known that I had this condition, let's say, 15 years ago when it first started acting up, I could have, saved a lot of my back curvature from, unfortunately, being curved like it is now. And what it is it's akin to rheumatoid arthritis. It's an immunity disease where essentially your immune system is overactive, and for some reason, in my case, with arthritis, it's other joints, but in my case, it's the spine. It sees the spine and attacks the spine as if it's a virus or something.
Oh my God!
Yeah. So what happens is the joints in between the spine start to deteriorate, and in order to
the cartilage,
the cartilage, because it attacks that, and so those begin to close, and then it also, like your body tries to compensate, so it grows more cartilage out from the bones, essentially, kind of thing, and your spine then begins to fuse, but it fuses curved, and it pushes forward. And so there's a lot of people, you might have seen people who are really bent over, and as the longer you have this, the more and more it pushes down. So what happens is you begin to get this in your 20s. And if you're lucky, it doesn't last very long. It can last anywhere from 10 to 30 years. Usually it goes away in your 40s or 50s. But if you catch it early enough, you can take some drugs that get rid of that inflammation, and then so you save, from that fusing from happening, so you don't lose mobility. Like I can't turn my head left or right very far. I can't bend over very far, and I've got this kind of like curve in my neck that people can see, and that'll never go away because there's a few spinal columns that are fused. So the unfortunate part is when I used to tell my doctors about my back hurting, I thought it was, they would say, oh, it's just regular back pain. And so they never said anything. They didn't tell me to go to a rheumatologist. So if you're in your 20s and you have back pain, go to a rheumatologist. At least get checked. Because if I would have been checked, I could have been on the drugs and then I wouldn't have. I only just started taking drugs about 2 years ago to relieve this. And my back pain was severe. I mean, it was really bad. I had to watch how I walked and stepped. I didn't even know how much it affected me until I got on this drug and it alleviated that. So luckily my back has been fine the last couple of years. I used to think maybe it was because I was overweight because years ago I was. But I lost the weight and it still didn't go away, and that's what triggered the alarm. Is I was going to the gym practically every day. I'd lost 60 pounds, working out, anything I ever tried couldn't solve the problem. I thought I'm just going to have to live with this pain. My girlfriend actually just kept pushing me, you got to go to the chiropractor, so I did. And luckily one of the chiropractors says, you know what, I think you may have ankylosing spondylitis, because all the chiropractors told me your back looks like the spine of a 90-year-old. So I finally went and got diagnosed and started to get the issue worked on. But I'll never regain any of that mobility or be able to stand up straight. So, so if you have back pain, go get it checked. Don't think that you'll just have to live with it, even though, unfortunately, millions of people do just have to live with the pain. And that's why we have a huge issue with people getting hooked on pain drugs and painkillers. But luckily in my case, there's a drug that can alleviate the pain, unlike others. But and if you catch it early enough, you don't have these complications. So I just want people to know, and it is large. It's like 1 out of 10 young men have this condition, ankylosing spondylitis.
Wow.
Now I have it worse than most, but still, that's a lot of people.
It really is. That's huge.
Yeah.
So 10% of. Wow, that's really something.
So I was thinking about it because I missed, and I was thinking about it yesterday that, that affected my work week, and I was like, I should really start telling people about this, so because people need to know that they need to get their back checked if they have back pains in their 20s. So
that's a good message. I'm glad you're getting that out there. A lot of people have different types of back pain, but it's, if it's persistent, then you're right. You should get it checked. It could be a number of things. Mm-hmm. And I always hear you don't jump into back surgery right away either. You really wait it out to see if it's something else, or you can do something else. A lot of people have regrets from getting surgery.
Well, the surgeries, some of them only work 75% of the time. So, but my mom's going to try one of them because she's tried everything and hasn't had relief from the pain, and she doesn't want to get hooked on the painkillers. And in the U.S., we have such a problem with that. And
we do. There's so many people, and I know a few people who have died from it.
Yeah.
So, overdosed. So
and Prince might have. There's suspicions that Prince's death may be due to that, and they're looking into it. So we'll find out soon if that's the case. But regardless, he was someone who suffered from hip joint pain. So it's a really difficult situation. I mean, it's the biggest health issue is people with different sorts of pain. But just don't be stubborn, I guess, like me. Go to the doctor, get it checked out. And unfortunately, even your general practitioner may not give you the best advice or know what's going on. So you might just on your own go to a specialist or tell your doctor, I want to get it checked out. Or you can go to the chiropractor if you suspect and ask them if there's any fusing going on, or what happens is these little spines will start to grow out starting to connect your, the parts of your spine, different things that your chiropractor can identify. So go get it checked out.
Good.
So there you go. Yeah. So that's it for news. There are a couple other stories out there. Roger Marsh from MUFON has written a couple UFO sighting stories that we have on the site from last week also. Nothing with photos or videos, which of course people like, but still people love to hear from other people, what they've seen. So, and of course, a lot of the popular UFO sightings out there rely on the credibility of the witness, and they don't have pictures or videos. So yeah, check those out. Anything else?
Not from overseas. Nope.
All right. It's so cool that you sound so great. You sound like you're in the room here.
All right.
Yeah.
I'm loving it. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us from Russia. What time is it there?
It is 9:40 in the evening.
Oh, wow. Yeah, it's 11:40 in the a.m. here. So, well, cool.
Yeah.
Thanks, buddy, and you have a great time out there.
All right. You take care.
All right, let's go ahead and hear what Mr. Hoffman has to say. I am very excited to welcome for the first time to the show, Rich Hoffman.
Hey, Alejandro, it's exciting to be here. I haven't been with you before, so this is a new kind of thing for us to chat, and I'm looking...
Yeah. Well, it's funny because I do this sometimes, and I told you that, when we set this up, oh, yeah, I have you back on the show. But you're one of the guys I just talked to so regularly that I had figured you've been on the podcast before, but you haven't. I think we did like a Skype video interview before, but it's wonderful to be talking to you on the podcast here. Welcome.
Well, thanks. Looking forward to it. It's a great program that you've got going on. I've been enjoying it over the period of time you've been doing it, so it's great stuff.
Thank you. And your Skype picture here, you don't have a bow tie. Usually I see you with a bow tie.
It's amazing to me, but I do wear a bow tie a lot, and I mean, every day to work and stuff like that. So when I don't wear it, or when somebody has a picture or sees a picture without it, man, I get grief about the fact that I'm not wearing my bow tie. And
yeah.
Who is that individual?
Yeah.
That's not Rich Hoffman. I mean, he doesn't have a bow tie on. So.
Yeah. Well, I got a big kick out of sending you that GIF the other day of the Doctor Who, the Matt Smith Doctor Who, because he's always saying bow ties are cool. So I don't know if you saw that, but.
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
Yep. I get a lot of that Doctor Who thing. It's like, where's your TARDIS?
Well, Doctor Who is really cool, so that's a compliment.
Yeah, well, thank you so much. Thanks. I'll be wearing my bow tie down at the MUFON Symposium, too.
Yeah. So I guess we'll get into UFOs. I guess that's what we were going to talk about. But
yes, got to switch away from bow ties, huh?
Yeah, at least for now. I'm sure they'll come up again.
All right.
Eventually. But when did you first get into UFOs? Because you've been with MUFON since the turn of the century or something, right?
Yeah, back when the dinosaurs, I think somehow, no, literally, first off, I got started with UFOs back in 1964. In fact, I just celebrated my 52nd year of ufology. It was April 24th, 1964, when the Lonnie Zamora case happened, as a matter of fact. I think that's really what really got me. And then I found out I was living in Dayton, Ohio, and Project Blue Book was up the road, and that even did me in further, because it was like, wow, that's pretty neat. There's a project at the Air Force Base, which I had even no clue about, and then suddenly I got pulled into the whole subject. I couldn't put a book down. I was reading everything, newspaper clippings, anything on the subject, and but I joined MUFON. So let me go back, because I had started my own organization, and I in fact, it was called Days Cap, which was Dayton, Committee on Aerial Phenomena, similar to NICAP.
So I would guess that you were pretty young then. If you don't want to, you don't have to reveal the age. But
no, I mean, I was 13 years old when
Wow.
So I was only in 8th grade. That's what got me. But and then by the time I was 15, and I was actually on the Phil Donahue show in Dayton,
And you're kidding?
No, I thought you knew that. Yeah, no,
I didn't know that, and I love Phil Donahue.
Yeah, I love Phil Donahue too. And I got on that, and this is before he went and became really famous up in Chicago. But nevertheless, he had the same kind of show format that he had when he went up there, and he was just right up the street, actually from where I lived. I could ride my bike to the station and stuff. But he had heard me. I was doing presentations already around the city to different groups, and somebody mentioned my name, and I guess the next thing I know is I got on the show. And
at 15.
Yeah, 15 years old, and I handled all the questions pretty well, and then what happened was, because it played in Dayton, the next thing I know is I was getting phone calls from everybody and their brother that wanted to know more, and then the next thing I know is I'm like giving, like I said, lectures everywhere, television shows. I was pulled on, oh my God, I can't even begin to tell you how many times I was on TV, and then then it got to be the point where, I was literally getting calls from everybody and their brother, and I didn't have really enough people to help me out, and it was like I didn't even know that many people in the UFO subject, but suddenly I started to pull people together, and we started actually having meetings in my garage, and I started pulling together a group, and then eventually I got there was another group down in southern Ohio in the Fairfield area and we called ourselves the Ohio UFO Investigators League. And I got connected with them somehow. I became their director of investigations. And then what happened was I had heard that there was a thing called Midwest UFO Network that was starting up, and it was in Seguin, Illinois. And I thought, well, I need to get connected with them, and so I joined up. And so I'm one of those like early people that was with the Midwest UFO group, and I got my first manual, which was like, I still have my manual from that.
Wow.
And so, yeah, I've been with them for a long, long time, 40 some odd years. Mm-hmm. And the thing that's exciting for me is that, after being with them all this time, this is my first chance to actually now do a presentation at a symposium. Can you believe it?
This is your first?
The very first time that I'm a presenter at the MUFON Symposium since I've been with them.
Wow.
In 1978, I hosted the MUFON Symposium, and we rented out the entire Dayton Convention Center.
Oh, and this was during Close Encounters. This was the big one.
3,000. You got it. So this is the one where Hynek was there, Donald Kehoe was there.
Wow.
Leonard Stringfield was talking about crash retrievals. Ted Blocher was there. All these people that are, incredible. And then we actually had the filming of, or like a huge screen that we had in the Dayton Convention Center that showed Close Encounters, or that mothership scene. Mm-hmm. And that was, coincided with. But I was actually up on stage, and I was a moderator for that, introducing the guests.
Wow.
But that's it. So I'm pretty excited about actually now doing my first presentation with MUFON at a symposium.
How cool. I'm excited, too, because I'm doing MUFON for the first time, and it feels like, I've been around MUFON for a long time, but not even a fraction of as long as you have. And that's not a dig to your age.
That's all right.
That is in honor of your, of your, I don't know, you're an elder statesman.
I guess so. I've got the gray hair to prove it.
Yeah. Well, I've got gray hair, too, so you look, talking about going back all of these years, you don't look to be that old.
Well, thank you. I guess I'm very fortunate in the gene area.
So how did you and the UFO community feel when Close Encounters came out?
Oh, well, to me, I can tell you this much, that we were all very, very excited, because here was for the very first time. I mean, it's so hard to get movies that depict, actual true to life kind of events, that they keep to the stories as they're happening. So good example would be the, Roy Neary in the truck, and then, the truck goes dead and it starts back up on its own. And then you had the varieties of shapes that you'd see. we really haven't had too many motherships and some other things, but we've had those like little, like ball of lights that are moving around and things like that. And you had a chance to see a lot of other different aspects, like the radar screen where you see him watching something. So you had some elements of it that Hynek was able to bring in his cameo performance. And then, then it was cool to be able to see Jacques Vallée and Francois Truffaut's characterization of him. And so it kind of like made it, and brought it home for us. And we thought that would be a big, very big, helpful kind of like event, if you would. Mm-hmm. And it was to a large extent, except that, but the real problem was that, when Blue Book decided to terminate and the Condon Report did the nail in the coffin, and then you had the National Academy of Sciences actually now doing the nail on the scientists, it just put an end to a lot of things. And then suddenly we lost the top cover over a period of time where we're now doing the same kind of work, and then people were like, oh, well, the Air Force thinks it must be pretty good, so okay, it's got some credibility to it, right? Mm-hmm. But as you watched, and I even do presentations on this, but over the period of time, the real UFO subject became blurred by all of the distractions that go around it. And that's, I'm talking about the fact that, it's the mythology that's been created around this whole thing now is far different than anything that we had back in that day, and so, that's the sad part, because now we spend our times with distractions versus spending our times on the real UFO or unidentified objects that we can't explain.
It's funny you say that, because I had thought that Hynek, must have really loved Close Encounters because of his involvement. And like you, it's so accurate as to what happened, and I love the heck out of that movie. Yeah. But I heard from Don Schmidt, Hynek didn't really like the movie, and I can totally see it because of that. He felt that it was sensationalized and it wasn't real. They went too far away, departing from the actual real live events. And, having been on television like you have, and having your work be misrepresented by entertainers, I can identify with the way Hynek would have felt.
Yeah, and he did. I mean, I had conversations with him, and he did say that. I actually had a chance to go up and be in his house with him and Mimi. And in fact, Mark Rudiger was there. But conversations with him was that he was disappointed. We all have that same thing where we go in and we provide all this wonderful information, and we want these recreations to be, exact. We'd like to be able to see real cases presented, and then Hollywood and producers and various other people turn it into something completely different. And then you're saying, well, wait, that's not what happened, and then they're out there like either creating another story and adding to the mythology that separates us even further from the real legitimate data. Yeah. If you really read the case up front, you'd see that it was this way, and then you'd find out that it's portrayed, they broadened the story, and, we see that all the time. And even those recreations you see on television, which are just pure BS, they basically just devastate and create, in other words, you could see like the Cash Landrum case where there might be blue sparks because they portray it, blue sparks jumping out of the bottom of the thing. Well, there weren't any blue sparks. It's like that didn't have that. Mm-hmm. And then you'd see people saying, hey, I saw something that looks like it had blue sparks out of it. Okay, well, there you go. Yeah. And it's off. And then the world of the internet is just abysmal in the sense of passing around truth. More untruth gets passed around every day than any truth you can get out there. Mm-hmm. So we don't. And then, I'll say this right now. I'm going to be presenting. I was asked by a visiting professor that's coming to Huntsville to speak at the University of Alabama, Huntsville, in an honors college class coming up next month. And I'm excited about it because one of the topics that we're going to be talking, and I'm going to be able to use the subject goes extremely well with it, is he wants to be able to take his psychology class and to teach critical thinking skills. And one of the things that I know, because I've also been in the training and development field. In fact, I was with a company, an organization called American Society for Training and Development, and I became a regional director up in the New England area. But we did a study where we found out that we started to see that critical thinking skills was one of the things that we were missing in schools. And so here you see those, and this was like, this was like maybe 30 years or 20, 25 years ago or something. Anyway, the bottom line is we see that that's out there and continuing to evolve and worsen to the point where you have either a gullibility, I accept everything because it's on the internet, but you don't have any critical thinking, that goes on. So I'm going to go over and present them, the UFO information. Going to talk about, and we're going to walk through a case. I thought I'd use the Aguadilla case since I'm going to be talking about it, and just say, okay, let's walk through a case, and then to see the kinds of things that they can come up with, and to see how they think, and to try to promote that. So I'm excited about that. But I guess what I'm trying to say is, we have people that watch those lousy shows that are on, that are misproduced and not correct, and people accept them, and they, without question, that's what I saw. It's therefore it is, And so it's very sad that we have that.
Yeah, I think.
But
yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say my last guess. I think, as you know, Robert Hastings also expressed his frustration, and he even used a bad word.
Yes. And I applaud his bad word because because he's so down to earth, and he expresses with kind of like, this is the way it is. I'm sorry. It's just horrible.
Yeah. Well, at least Close Encounters was a fiction movie, whereas a lot of these shows, like the ones I think what is generating your frustration, my frustrations, Robert Hastings' frustrations, are these modern television shows which purport themselves, which try to say that they're documentarian or they're journalistic when they're actually largely fictional.
Yes. Yeah, completely agree. You don't know how many people saw the movie, even the Fourth Encounter. What was it?
Oh, The Fourth Kind.
The Fourth Kind. Yeah, The Fourth Kind. And believed that whole story was actually true.
Yeah.
And argued with me about the fact that that's the way it is, that this is the way it is. And I'm going like, I'm sorry, it was a movie.
Yeah, it was fake, people.
It was faked. And and then you can tell people that, and it's like they still don't want to accept it.
Mm-hmm.
I've had my own experience looking and seeing the Google Loon balloon take off from here in Huntsville. It was reported for 4 days as it was moving up, and I watched it in CMS, the MUFON's database. I watched it and tracked it every day as it progressively moved up from me to Tennessee to Kentucky and it ended up in Pennsylvania, and then eventually it ended up in Canada. But this thing was reported as a UFO along the way. And don't you know, when I explained to everybody that it was a Google Loon balloon that was launched from Huntsville, and it was a NASA-engineered balloon, solar balloon, they didn't accept it. I'm sorry, it was a UFO. It was an alien spacecraft, and you're wrong.
Yeah, it's funny because one of my first cases as a UFO field researcher with MUFON was a video case, and we watched this video, and it was amazing. It was these white objects in the sky, and none of us could figure out what it was. It wasn't birds. It wasn't planes. They were bright objects, 5 or 6 of them, and it was shocking. Well, I took that video, and I wasn't that great with video editing at the time. Not that I'm a master at it now. Luckily, we have Michael here who is. But I was able to zoom in, and I could see the flapping of the wings, and it was birds. It was duck butts, is what I told everybody. It's because they had just flown through some rain, and then the sun was hitting on them, and they were just really brightly lit. And when I sent the email to everybody, hey, these are duck butts, they didn't want to believe me. And then I showed them, well, look at this particular one. This is a duck. Well, that may be a duck, but the others weren't. So I don't know. I guess sometimes we get so invested that at an idea that it's hard to step back and say, oh man, we were wrong about that one.
Yep. And to this day, I mean, it's like, you got people out there, like, a good example, I was doing some reading back of some old literature that I had that dealt with I actually got to meet Major Hector Quintanilla when he was still at the Blue Book.
He was the last guy to run Blue Book.
You got it. He closed the doors. And I, of course, the other thing was for me was I got to know a number of them well enough that, in fact, I got to also sit on some cases that I was on where I had a Blue Book officer next to me.
Wow.
So I've had one of those like rare experiences that before they closed the project. But but anyway, in fact, to me, what was exciting was that they let me use the radar approach control to be able to contact them if I had an object that I was like looking into.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
So I mean, it sounds like, this is some good insight because a lot of people feel, Blue Book was a cover up. It was just a cover. I mean,
what it failed to do was, its whole thing was to go out and to just like almost like in the context of MUFON, go out, get data, fill out a form, make sure that the form is filled out completely, bring it back, stick it in hypothetically in their own like database, whether it be files or whatever like that. But they were never really there to go and to take the material and look at it and do the research on it, which is why Quintanilla was like saying, if you can find somebody that would actually do something with this data, I'd be happy to provide it. And so when he got the University of Colorado project underway, he was extremely, wanting to pass it along. And of course, by that time, I mean, he's so, I want to get out of this thing. I mean, I want to, it's not going anywhere. We don't need to do this anymore. And the public, I mean, he wasn't even getting all the good sightings. I mean, it's like, if you took a look at them, they were small office with a secretary, a clerk, or this and that. As it's already been pointed out, even by the Bollinger memo, that all of the legitimate, stuff will be passed off to others, and he didn't even get those cases because even in the classified world, he wouldn't even get him. His staff wasn't even able to get the real classified stuff. So hypothetically, I mean, he's just getting the stuff that's low visibility and it wasn't going anywhere. Nobody was studying it. He was able to get the Condon thing was probably put in and help being fostered by the CIA, which, by the way, they've been doing that since the Robertson panel. And so you had the CIA helping to put the squelch on it. You had, and they just, eventually were able to get out of it because it was costing taxpayers money, not going anywhere. Nobody was doing anything with it. And they weren't exactly coming up with anything that was, proved that we were being visited.
Mm-hmm.
And so with that being said, and Kehoe and them had, constant, run-ins. He was NICAP would be out there trying to say, well, the Air Force isn't doing this or not doing that. And sure they weren't. But at the same time, it's like there was this lack of really, truly interest in this subject because it was really looked at as being, and that's true even today, by the way. I mean, I work in the military world. I've been in it since, for God's sakes, I started when I went to, I'm a contractor with the U.S. Army Material Command, which is the corollary to the Air Force Material Command up in Dayton that actually had the Project Blue Book.
Mm-hmm. So on those lines, like, first of all, I guess, because I want to get into this, did your work, your early interest in UFOs influence your career choices? And, if you could share what you do and have done as a career.
Yeah, so, I mean, I guess I was always interested in the military. I mean, I wasn't, I actually tried to go into the military when I got to college. And I think that, I think on some level I was interested in knowing what they knew, and I thought, well, maybe I can become. And so I was in the Air Force ROTC, and when I was in college, and I was in it for a very short time because guess what? They basically said that I've got a heart murmur, rheumatic fever. You're not allowed to go into the service. Okay, great. So that thus ended my career there. And then I kind of like, just drop the ball, let it go. And of course, everybody in this field, you can't make a living off of being a ufologist unless you're going to go out around, even, writing a whole bunch of books and maybe the Nick Redfern method or something like that, or whatever. But, I don't, even then you have to complement your income, and I just couldn't make it. So I had to go off and get a career, and it couldn't be UFOs. And so eventually I got into the IT world because I have a strong interest in the IT world. And then, lo and behold, when I was in the DC area, I was asked to go and to do some training or something like that. I was with a company that was a training company. In fact, I was head of the training. And I went over, and the next thing I know is that they wanted me to come and be a trainer there, and that turned out to be the Army Materiel Command. I thought, wow, that's pretty interesting. So here I am. I'm an IT kind of guy that's working with a whole variety of companies depending upon which contract wins. And I've been a defense contractor. I'm working in the IT world. I was working with even the Booz Allen Hamilton, which is the same company that Edward Snowden was in. And I've earned the trust of the government, from the standpoint of all these years doing my IT work, and they value the work that I do, and I help them out in a lot of different ways. We're doing cloud computing. We're actually doing data center consolidation, and I help play in on that. So I'm at the IT strategic level for the Army Materiel Command, and I've become I'm pretty much known there. But they also know, and I don't hide it, that I have an interest in UFOs. I mean, my cube is decorated with UFO paraphernalia. People are, people know that that's where I'm at. I've had a number of other people that I worked around. I had a friend of mine who that his job was to monitor conversations that were possibly coming out of Area 51.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, he was. His job was to go out there and to see if he could pick up any conversations he was out there, and they do that to be able to ensure that there's no leaks coming from off the post and stuff like that. And that's what his job was. And so I've had conversations like that. I've talked to other people in the military. Most of them are very curious, but there's absolutely nothing that I see in the entire command that shows any remote connection or involvement in anything that looks like, smells like UFOs. So I have kind of like the same experience that John Alexander has when he's, if you listen to or read his books, he says, well, I used to work in the Army Materiel Command, the R&D world, and he worked in INSCOM and other places. And you look around, you don't see any interest in that subject at all. And so I can, nobody's bothered to ask me what I know, what I do, like that. And I'm going like, okay. They really don't have a care in the world about it, and it really hasn't done anything for them. And certainly, if there is any remote interest, it's like, my God, I don't know where they're hiding, because I've been all over the command, and I can't see anything that looks like or, addresses that. That's why, I've always maintained that if there's any body that really cares about this subject at all, it's going to be, maybe some sort of a very close hold, highly secret, compartmentalized group of people. And then, if there's any R&D work, it's not in the government world. It's out in the commercial world. It's like the Northrops and all that stuff like that, who are in the Black Project world. And none of that gets conveyed or translated over to the people. Like, for example, the propulsion you might come up with in the Black world is not going to be shared over in the commercial world. Isn't that sad? So NASA can't benefit if we came up with anti-gravity devices in the one world with the other one. So, so that's the problem that you see, and some of the stuff that I'm aware of. But it's been a great career. I've enjoyed working there. And like I said, that they tolerate a ufologist within them, and that's okay. I mean, I've seen too much and experienced too much that I'm not going to stop now. And, I've got the security clearances and all that stuff like that, but I can't possibly even begin to tell you anything that shows anything that looks like, smells like a UFO. So.
And on that note, I mean, just with your years of experience, you mentioned the Bolander memo, where it was like essentially anything that was a national security concern was sent somewhere else other than Blue Book.
Yeah.
So, But the problem is, and I don't know that anybody knows for sure where those went.
Yeah, well, you have, exactly. I think that, it's hard to find out. I've seen speculation that it went to the Navy, and that might have been in, the intelligence world of the Navy. And I mean, there's parts of that can make sense and stuff like that because it's, but you can't really seem to track down things. It's not like that there's an easy paper trail to find that tells you where those little nuggets would be. To me, what I've always believed is that, the DARPA world, DARPA is one of those things that came about in the 1960 time frame. And before that it was ARPA, and anyway, so it would have done things like, encouraging, corporations and things like that go off in a certain direction. So in other words, let's say I've got a crash and I got material from the crash. I would be able to take that material and probably, say, hey, look, DARPA, look at this here. And that DARPA would go out and create a contract or put out a request for investigation or information and stuff like that. And you would have had a whole bunch of people providing new papers that would have been collecting the R&D stuff, that type of information. Plus, you've got, Foreign Technology Division at Wright Pat, and you've got here you've got in Huntsville, you've got Missile and Space Intelligence Center, MISIC. You have a number of these places where they collect the debris and stuff like that, and they re-engineer it. And that's what their job is, to re-engineer stuff, to see if they can tear it apart, figure out how it runs, and that's what we do. So, and every government on the planet does the same kind of thing, so it's no surprise.
And so people know, though, who are listening, they're talking about like a Russian maybe satellite or missile or something, taking that and back engineering that.
Correct. Yeah, we get it's a missile that came down. It might have been a Scud or something like that. The Scud gets brought back, we tear it apart, and we look at it. Mm-hmm. So the nature of what we do with debris and all that stuff like that is passed along. If we collected a new kind of gun, for example, that would go over to the R&D people that would be working with it, and it would get passed off to them. And then that a lot of those R&D shops are contract companies, they're contract sheds, so they go off and they do their whatever they're going to do with it to re-engineer it. So people see that as being the mysterious government and all this other wonderful stuff, but the bottom line is that every day you've got these people that are out there that are helping to do something to protect us, and that's their purpose, is to defend us, and so I have to applaud them and support everything that they do, because the things that they come up with are only there to help protect this country and the people in it, and so more power to them, and I applaud that kind of level of concern. Just like even, if you go back to Roswell, Alejandro, it's like, was it right that they came in with a cover story? You're doggone right it was with the right thing. It's too bad that they came up with multiple stories, but the bottom line was that, we already had Soviets that had already penetrated a lot of even our defense areas and our government. And don't you know that the moment you had this thing where there was a disc caught, every government around the planet was already asking their spies to get the information, right? Mm-hmm. So put it to rest, stop it, and deflect that kind of thing and create a cover story. And that's exactly what happened there. Was it a nice thing to do? Well, not to ufologists, but to the government, yeah, maybe you needed to do that, because every spy out there is collecting the debris and going to do the same thing to you that you want to do to them. So,
And so you have a feeling that what do you think did crash in Roswell?
Well, I think that legitimately, if you take a look at all the collected, evidence or testimony, let me put it that way, the testimony that you heard and the sheer volume of the monitoring that went on of people and the threats that were made and everything else that of course that Carey and Schmidt had collected in terms of their work, as well as others, that something unknown legitimately came down there. And there were beings of some sort that didn't match anything from this earth. And so I really believe that there is something to it. You don't see that level of monitoring of conversations and threats and everything else, which go way beyond anything that you and I would experience even today. I mean, at least that's what we believe. That went on for years. And so there was something there, and I believe that there was a real event. I think that it was the materials that were collected were confiscated. I think it was taken, much like I told you before. I said that it goes to an R&D shop, and guess where an R&D shop is? Well, up in Dayton, Ohio, at Wright Pat Airfield, and take it up there, collect as much as you can, and then probably there it got filtered out to other places. And Battelle Memorial Institute was under contract with the Air Force at the time, and that's a think tank. And so quite logically, since they played a heavy role in shape memory alloy development, which happens to be similar to the memory metal that was found in Roswell, that we suddenly see that in the 1960s, that kind of shape memory alloys and these other kinds of things coming out that are bendable, and metal that bends and folds back and comes back to the original shape. We start to see that happening. Nitinol, nickel titanium alloy, is an example of that. And right now that nitinol, I mean, it's part of our R&D work. So a lot of that stuff that might have been found and collected was passed off to defense contractors, whether it was through Philip Corso or not, I don't know. But I mean, I still think that it was passed around and it would have been used or leveraged in some capacity. And that's what we do. That's what the government, that's what the military does.
Right. So, and for people who might not remember or know that Philip Corso was a guy who worked at R&D, worked at the Pentagon. He claims that that's what he did. He was given the Roswell material and gave it off to the various contractors. And it would seem an advantage to contractors is they're not subject to FOIA, and they can have people sign gag orders. And you could be sued for lots of money if you talked about something.
Yeah, exactly. And now all this is, trust me, it's all speculation, because you won't find a written transfer of we haven't found it yet.
Yeah.
The handbill that shipped this Roswell debris to this place, to this place, to this place. It's only on the basis of repeatable stories that somewhat you can look at and you can say, okay, well, that makes sense, that doesn't make sense, and you call that out, and that's the way we have all had to work. It's occasionally that that's the nice thing about Robert Hastings is he's been able to find a document paper trail that helps him out, which is great. Len Stringfield, for example, when he was doing all his collection on crash retrievals, had a lot of testimonials with a lot of different people, but short on documents. And that's where, again, it's the frustration. And so if you don't have a paper trail, it's like hard to get it. And then you have to rely on getting additional credible sources to validate that you might have heard from that. Because, again, if I go talk to 5 people, I'll get 5 different stories, right?
Yeah, which is kind of the same problem with Roswell. You have a lot of witnesses, but then skeptics point out you have a lot of discrepancies between the testimony.
Well, and I would love them to do, ever a UFO investigation or a criminal investigation. You're always going to get discrepancies between people. Mm-hmm. So you use the 2 people that have a different story as the means to debate and discredit the rest of the stuff. I'm sorry, that doesn't work for me. That's not how it works. Mm-hmm. And so, too bad, but legitimately, we could just drop the whole thing because everybody's got an opinion about UFOs. I mean, that's okay. There's nothing to it, Well,
I do want to move on to the Puerto Rico case because you were part of that, and of course we've talked a lot about it on the show. We've had Robert on You were going to come to the symposium to talk about it, but you were off vacationing in Mexico or something.
Yeah.
Traipsing around the beach. So Robert came to talk about it, Robert Powell. But so that's unique, too, because that you have a video, and now it's been confirmed that it was a Homeland Security video.
Indeed. Yeah, we were, the whole thing about this video, and you know as well as I do, you get you see videos all the time. People pass you like YouTube links, or they pass you this or that, and you take a look at it, and there's of course nothing that validates the video is done by the photographer. There's nothing that's out there that helps you to create legitimacy around that video. Well, I mean, much the same to us as we had, we got the video passed to us very early on, and it's like, well, okay, well, is this really a Homeland Security whatever, and how do we know that, and so we were extremely, while we thought that it was like a very compelling video, and it still is a compelling video, it's just the matter of like, well, how do you validate that this isn't something that's contrived? And so for us, it was a very critical thing to make sure that we could validate that. And that's why when you see, when we looked at and got the radar data was able to confirm the fact that indeed a custom and border protection plane did take off at that time and did fly 2 circles around the airport, and the times matched up with the case. And then you look at the codes that come in for that, and you find out that the codes the ID codes that come up match what's been handed over to Customs and Border Protection. So these are that was able to be helpful. Then later, through thankfully a Freedom of Information Act done by Billy Cox, he was able to get an actual piece of information back that again validated the fact that it was one of theirs. So that was an important piece that we had to do, was to confirm that that was the case.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, then from there, we spent 2 years analyzing the video. That was really the whole thing. We were really not doing a case investigation as much as a video investigation. Mm-hmm. So we were tackling the video. What can this be? It's infrared. Wow. What did all these numbers on the screen mean? And there were a lot of numbers around the screen. And people, if they want to go there, you just go to explore, EXPLORE-SCU.org, explorescu.org, and they can, you can see the video. We've got the video posted up there. We got our paper posted up there. You can see the radar animation that's going on. And so, you began one of those things where it's like, well, what is this thing? And can you even determine that? And, and then how does the video, what can we deduce from the video? And so let's take it and break it into 7,027 frames and look at every single frame. Let's compute we know that the frame rate was 1/30th of a second, so there's going to be 30 of these frames. It's going to lapse to 1 second. What does that give us? And then we had to go out and learn about the camera. We got a hold. First we thought it was a FLIR camera, and then I went and did some checking on the installation and found out that it was not a FLIR camera. And they told me it was a Westcam L3 camera, and then I went and contacted Westcam and spoke with them, and they confirmed that it was one of theirs. And we started to go off there in terms of getting camera information, and we got some camera information. And then over a period of time, we finally were able to make contacts with different IR technicians, different people that were doing things. And hey, the story keeps evolving, and we keep learning more and more about infrared. That all of us, as the team of basically me and 5 others, we learned about infrared more so than anything else, and we learned about what the object was. We did a lot of obviously a lot of math and a lot of calculations on the different things in terms of speed and its maneuvering into the water and all this other stuff, and what the temperature might be, and we did a lot of investigation on that. The bottom line was that we put together what we could based upon the information that we had, and then we said, hey, what could this conceivably be? And then when typically in ufology, and this is the way we do things, it's like, in Hynek called it the de-escalation of hypotheses. You start off with the known and you work to the unknown, right? And so we did what he did, which was basically, well, it's not a bird, it's not a plane, it's not a kite, it's not this, it's not that, Do we know anything that can look like that, move like that? No. And then you come down with hey, look, unless this is something that is a classified project, then you took the risk of flying a classified project over and stopped an aircraft from taking off, and you're flying over an airport, for God's sake, then why would you do that? But that's the only thing you're left with, other than it being something completely unknown that we just don't know about. And
I mean, you do not. There's still a few out there who believe it could be a bird or a balloon.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
But that's where we asked them to put their paper together, like we did, do their homework, show us, and make sure that they can make that claim stick.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I mean, great. When we see that, then we're ready to assume that it's something else. Now, Let me also clarify that I'm excited because I've now made contact here with the University of Alabama, Huntsville, the Applied Optics Department, and I've actually got one of the professors who in research who has now joined hands to look at this thing with us, and he may be able to help us to learn more about the infrared than we thought that we could possibly even know.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's cool. And what's great about this is the people who have come about with alternate theories, they haven't done the work, like you said, to put together a paper. However, being part of some of the conversations with the group, you and your group, you all still take their input seriously and have looked at it carefully to see what their points are. And at least so far, I believe, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, you still haven't found an answer, however, as to what this was.
Correct. It just, you advance the balloon idea, right? So, say, great. So they're using line of sight to show that maybe the movement of the object was not at the same speed that we thought that it was, or maybe in a different direction, or it didn't do this or didn't do that. Okay. Did you go and check that and indeed a balloon, what it looks like in infrared? Mm-hmm. Okay, we did that. I've actually got video clip using the same camera of a balloon. Okay, it doesn't. The emissivity that's reflected from the ground and the sky don't look anything like this object whatsoever. Then they're not accounting for the fact that it was first seen at night. It was first seen by the tower as well as the aircraft as being a white and a pink, or kind of a white or pinkish light, if you would, that came in and basically went dark. It went dark. And they're saying, okay, well, and they're not even accounting for that. Okay? They don't even mention that that's the case. Okay, well then, and then it went dark. So what turned out the light on the balloon? The other thing would be like, if it was a balloon or something of that nature, how do you explain the fact that it goes and it disappears at times, what appears to be behind a pole, a telephone pole, or it appears to move along the ground and in between trees, or that it seems to go in the water and it appears to look like it goes in the water and then comes back up and then splits into two? Okay? So tell me how your balloon splits into two, how it does this kind of movement. And their papers don't get that far along. So they haven't done their homework. They need to spend, more time doing that, do the calculations, make the case, and that's what. we didn't really even want to get into the UFO community, but it's the UFO, if you would, the skeptics, or whatever you want to call them. I mean, critics, if you would, or debunkers, whatever the term you want to use for those group. And it's just because they want to be able to prove, and they've already come up with, it's a balloon, or it's this, or it's that. It's not this. So they're biased from the beginning, and they go off and they try to prove that it can't be a UFO or can't be unidentified. We have to find something else for it. And then they can't come up with an answer and even tell us what it is. And so but they want to point their finger at us. They want to stick fingers in our face. They want to call us names as a group. And yet all we are a bunch of skeptical kind of like, I mean, people don't think that I'm not skeptic. Excuse me, wait a minute. I'm very skeptical of most UFO cases. Mm-hmm. So I too am a skeptic. And, but I also have a feeling that there's legitimacy to the case that needs to be explored and it needs to be investigated. Mm-hmm. And so, but yet, we're criticized by that group, and it's just become actually a carnival with them. And I'm sad to say, but.
And with the true experts, the ones with the most expertise that are legitimate experts, people who work with these systems, are agreeing that they do not believe this object to be a balloon or a bird.
Correct.
And for me, that's what's most important, because these are the experts. Everybody can have an opinion, but when it comes down to, like even me writing it as a journalist, the expert opinion is what's most important. And it's unique that we even have this expert opinion, because often in these UFO cases, you can't get experts to put in their 2 cents because they're afraid of ridicule. And even in this case, they only identified themselves to myself and you all, but otherwise don't want us to release their personal information.
Yeah, which, I'll be perfectly honest with you. The vast majority of UFO witnesses don't want their names mentioned, okay? I mean, that's just the way it is. And, oh, by the way, I mean, do you think that I'm going to, go through the humiliation that I'm going to get if I put my name out there? No. I mean, the media is out there like a carnival and a joke that turns it into a circus. So I'm sorry, I'm going to keep my name quiet. But that doesn't mean that their testimony is not valid, or nor that we don't think that it's not. I talk to the IR people that do the maintenance work on those cameras. They're the ones that are out there knowing all about the camera. I mean, and they're literally, their whole office is sitting there looking at this entire video clip and saying, what the heck do you make out of that? That's nothing like anything I've ever seen. I mean, that counts for something. And so, I mean, legitimately there might be something, and again, I go back to the fact that I'm hoping that this IR professor, he's the assistant research director, my God, he's put together so many books on infrared that it's amazing, and it's just a very knowledgeable guy. And I sat with him for over an hour, and he was telling me things that were like, okay, well, this could be this, could be this, could be this, could be this. But great, can you help us out? Because to me, my opinion is, if this has a prosaic explanation to it, I want to know it, and I will be the first to publish it. Okay? I mean, I'll make sure that gets out there. I've got nothing to hide. But until then, it's an extremely compelling video. Okay? Mm-hmm. And I think we owe it to the witnesses who came forward, took the risk to do that, to treat it seriously. That's what they wanted. That's what they got. We treated it seriously. And, I'm proud of the work that we did. Most UFO cases, most excellent, first off, it's extremely rare for us to even have a military-grade piece of equipment pass, and we get that video. Okay? Show me a case where we've had anything taken infrared. Show me anything where we've had anything that was provided to us by the military where we can actually go look at it and see an object of some sort. So to me, it's like that's a rare event in and of itself, and it deserves a credible attention to it. And that's what I was proud of our group, at least attempting to do that.
Mm-hmm. So we're pretty much out of time. I mean, that flew by. You are the state director for Alabama and Mississippi MUFON. By the way, we haven't mentioned that. And I believe you have more titles with MUFON, right?
Yeah, I'm now the MUFON Director of Strategic Projects. And what that basically means is I'm looking to help out on getting technology implemented out there to be able to help us to tackle this thing. And that's one of the projects that I've got. I'm also helping to document the life cycle of the UFO case so that we can deploy that into our CMS design. Mm-hmm. So I'm doing a lot of that type of stuff, applying my IT skills and stuff like that in that capacity.
Yeah, did you see that cool UFO ID, UFO detector software?
Yes, I did. In fact, I think that's really neat. In fact, I've told my team that I've got to go out and let's get it and let's try it out and see what it's like and check it out.
Yeah, that's cool stuff. So, and people can go to MUFONAL.org to find out more about Alabama MUFON. You're going to be speaking at the MUFON Symposium in August, which is very cool. That'll be in Orlando, Florida. And what are you going to be talking about?
Well, the title of my program is going to be Target. It's about the Aguadilla, Puerto Rico case, and it's called Target Unknown. And so we'll talk about that UAP case, and that goes along with the theme of the entire thing, which is basically UFOs and from the oceans to the skies to out in space and stuff. And so it'll be one of those things. I'll be talking on Saturday evening, kind of like in the prime time spot after people come back from dinner. So awesome. I'm excited about it. I'll also be doing moderating one of the panels on the second day, and I'm looking forward to doing that as well.
Cool. Well, that's exciting. Well, anything else you wanted to add before we leave?
No, other than the fact that you're a great guy. I'm looking forward to being back on with you, Alejandro. I always appreciate your rationality to the subject, and thank you for having me on, and I hope it won't be another 52 years before I'm back on with you.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Thank you so much for coming on, and we'll definitely have you on again because I had a lot more questions I wanted to talk to you about. But this was great to get to know you better, and so the listeners get to know you. I even found out new stuff about you because I didn't know you were just a teenager when you started all of this. That's really cool.
Yeah, I was one of those kids that was influenced. A lot of people, there's a magic thing about age 13 or something like that. I run across it all the time where people were enhanced by the subject around that age, and so I was like, wow, that's pretty cool. And so, 13 years old.
Well, you know what? I'm going to ask this question. Hopefully you have time anyway, because I didn't ask, have you had a sighting of your own?
Well, no, I have not seen anything that I would classify as a UFO that I've witnessed. And I tend to be walking around with my head up in the air. I'm always out. I do sky watches. I'm out looking, and I haven't. But let me clarify. When you've investigated cases where you've seen circular areas that are baked 2 feet in the ground, 70 foot in diameter, like I did, and I'm standing in the middle of it, I'm going like, whoa, this is incredible. You see that, and you see other kinds of things when you do case investigations. I don't have any reason to not believe. I've talked to too many credible Air Force people, military people. There's something there, and I really don't even think that I have to see one because to me it's like, it's just too much common sense that the planet, every part of the planet's been touched by these things, and all people describe them the same way. So I don't need to see one, but if I do, great. I love it. Like the closest I came was I saw that Google Loon balloon, and man, I thought that was pretty wild. I thought that maybe that was going to be my first one until I found out that it was the balloon that was launched from Huntsville. So,
and I guess finally, for real this time, but you do believe the most likely answer for the phenomena is that there are extraterrestrial civilizations visiting.
I'm going to put it to you this way. I mean, there's the multiple hypotheses as to where they originate. I mean, I think that all of them still are on the table. In other words, if you look at the Bentwaters case, you could probably argue that they would tell you that it's something from the future. And that's pretty much the way that one went. If you look at the fact, if you read Jacques Vallée's work, and especially since he's done the new re-editing of his book, Wanders in the Sky, I mean, you're documenting the fact that we've had a relationship with some pretty unusual objects and things like that go throughout recorded history. So then there's the philosophy or the hypothesis that suggests that they've always been here. They might have been here before us. And then you also look at Jacques Vallée's work, and you'd say, well, maybe there's an alternative hypothesis, and maybe it's like interdimensional in nature that can pop in and pop out. And so that's just as much on the table. Then, it goes on and on and on to where that there's all these different, and it doesn't have to be that they're extraterrestrial necessarily coming from here. Well, let me put it to you this way. They might not be from here, but they've been here for a very, very long time is a very, very strong possibility. Mm-hmm. Their ability to move through space and time, might be that they're from, not even in this time element that we live in and what we work in. So we don't know where they originate from, but I believe that there's been a relationship between everybody on this planet with some unknown, something that we really don't know, that has been recorded, tracked, seen, observed. Maybe we've been influenced by it, and I believe that that's also the case. But I don't necessarily jump to the fact that they're flying here in spacecraft from another galactic place or something like that on a day-to-day basis. I believe that the oceans come into play. I believe that there might be conceivably bases underneath the ocean because we shouldn't even be called Earth. 3/4 of the planet is water. We should be called probably the planet Water.
and nukes.
And nukes. Well, yeah, I go along with Hastings.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, think about that. I mean, it's like, we started detonating all these things in the atolls underwater and stuff like that. If you were water-based, wouldn't you be a little bit concerned about that and want to pop out and try to stop all that stuff, Mm-hmm. So bottom line is that they've probably got shaken up quite a bit from all the rattling we did with the nukes that we've done, and we're affecting our own planet that they might be sharing with us. And so, hey, by the way, let me do something about that. So I believe very strongly that those interactions that Hastings has put together in his great work called UFOs and Nukes and his new documentary is legit, and it basically it says that they're wanting to stop us from either annihilating ourselves or something of that nature.
Mm-hmm. And finally, do they, whoever they are, have anything to do with the bow tie?
No, I'm sorry to say. I go back and I look at photographs that I've got, even of me as a kid, and I've found a few of them where I'm wearing a bow tie. And I had uncles who wore bow ties. And then it seems like when I got working at Army Materiel Command, there was this one gentleman by the name of Forrest Chilton that I remember working with me, and he always wore a bow tie. I thought that was really cool. So he kind of convinced me to go that way. And in fact, I went up and said, "Can you teach me how to tie this thing?" And so there you go. And there you go. And I just now I've got my wonderful cups and my drawings made by Dennis Reno of me wearing a bow tie and and my coffee mug and stuff like that. So it's pretty cool.
All right, you're pretty cool, dude.
Hey, thanks. Thank you. And I appreciate just being on with you.
Yeah, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right.
Thank you so much to Richard Hoffman for being on the show. What a great guest. Like I said, I interact with him so much. It's shocking that I haven't had him on the show before, and now you know why I should have had him on the show earlier and why I should have him on frequently, which I definitely will attempt to do because he's got a lot of great information. He's been in this for decades, and he's done a lot of great stuff and has some incredible insight. So I always love working with Rich. He's very professional, very down to earth. And what a background, huh? I mean, an amazing asset to this field. So thank you so much. You can check him out at Alabama MUFON. They've got a website and a Facebook. Also, you can check him out on Facebook. And he'll also be speaking at the MUFON Symposium. Like he said, actually, both of us will be. So, and Morgan Beal, who is a state director for Florida. Actually, the MUFON Symposium will be in late August in Orlando, and Morgan, being the state director, is taking a big role in this year's symposium, and he's also put together these really cool videos that highlight the different speakers. So he's got a video of yours truly, but he's got some of the other speakers, and you can find out about the speakers' backgrounds and what they're into and all about, and they're really cool, fun videos. So they're on the MUFON YouTube, and actually I've been posting them on my Facebook and on our Facebook group. So don't forget, the Open Minds UFO News Facebook group is out there. It's a closed group. But all you have to do is ask to join, and we will let you join. And we just want to keep out the real negative people and the people who are just name-calling and saying just disgusting things, as we see so much out there on the Internet by these anonymous boneheads. So, yeah, so join the Facebook group, and you can see these videos. They're really cool. And hopefully you can make it to the symposium to see us talk and to say hello. It's going to be a lot of fun. So really excited about that. I'm also really excited about our video portal. And of course, you're hearing about it every time now on the radio show, but you'll see it more in our emails and on our website. But our video portal, we've really beefed up. So we have all of the 2016 International UFO Congress lectures up on our on-demand video portal. So essentially, you can go there and you'll be able to watch all the lectures right there. They're all streaming, and for one low monthly price, you can watch all of these hundreds of videos of your favorite lectures. I mean, Bob Lazar, Jacques Vallée, George Knapp, all of the big guys, out there. I mean, we've got tons of people on there. So that's a lot of fun. But it's really cheap, and if you want, you can watch one video at a time. However, it's much more cost-effective just to do the low month-to-month on that one. So go check that out when you have a chance. It's well worth it. You could go to our website, openminds.tv, and you'll see the video portal link, and you'll see it there. We also have been talking about it in our emails. So on the website, on the upper right, you'll see a box where you can join our email newsletter. We only send that out bi-weekly, so we don't really spam you, but we let you know what's going on the radio show, with the UFO Congress, with our UFO reports, and the latest news and headlines and stuff. So you can keep up to date. So if you get busy with other things, we can always give you tabs on what's going on in the UFO world with this handy email that we send out on a bi-weekly basis. All of the news that we talked about you can find at openminds.tv, so be sure to check there regularly. And thank you all so much for listening. Thank you to Caleb Hanks for the opening and close music. And, no vacations or nothing in the way. We should have shows over the next few weeks. Actually, I've got interviews scheduled for the next few weeks already. So we'll be going on strong into the summer, into the Arizona desert heat. It's going to be like 95 tomorrow. So we are quickly, unfortunately, on our way to those 110-degree days. But right now, and if you were at the Congress, you remember the weather was spectacular. It was so great. And we've had this amazing weather all the way up until now. So I can't complain because it's been really nice. And hopefully it will be for a few days. But pretty soon here we'll be in the blazing sun. But regardless of that blazing sun beating down, we will be bringing you the UFO news at openminds.tv.